Hi everyone, I'm David Aragona, and this is the April 21st edition of Horses to Watch, where we look for horses from the past week that might have had trips, encountered adversity in their prior starts, and could be worth following when they run back in the future. This week on the show, we're going to wrap up the Aqueduct Spring Meet. It was just a pretty short 3-week meet, and we're going to talk about the final week of racing there. 3 turf races that I want to discuss from last week, 1 from Thursday and 2 from Saturday. Actually, all of these 3 races on the turf are for the New York breds, so we'll see how they do in upcoming starts on the NYRA circuit, most likely at Belmont. Let's begin with that race from Thursday. It's the second race on the April 15th card. This one is a New York bred maiden special weight going 6 furlongs on the Aqueduct outer turf course. Let's break these runners from the gate, and I want to focus on the number 2, Thunderbird Cafe. This is a first-time starter for Linda Rice, and you can see that this horse breaks pretty slowly on the right of your screen towards the back of the pack in those green silks. He comes out of the gate about a length behind the other horses, but is pretty slow into stride thereafter and just kind of settles at the back of the pack about 3 lengths behind the second to last horse with the opening furlong. Now, this is a race that features a pretty honest pace, and this was also a day at Aqueduct where a lot of rain came into the New York area right after this race and really during this race. So they were running it over a turf course that was really transitioning from the good to the yielding side. So you'll see some of the times come up, and it's actually a faster pace than it might seem when you see fractions like 23 and 46. But we're going to talk about a horse that is closing into those quick fractions. That is the number 2, Thunderbird Cafe, who you now see in that second group of runners to the right of your screen. He's now heading them, and he's going after this first group of leaders with that white blaze on his face. He's now angling to the outside. And this is a horse for a first-time starter. Considering that poor start, he really never stops running in this race and is pretty much relentlessly making up ground for the entire duration of the 6 furlongs. But you can see here, as they come to the stretch, he's just a little bit green. He's on his left lead, switches back to his right briefly, but then goes right back to his left at about the 8th pole as they come on for the wire. He does get up for 4th in this race and is finishing pretty nicely, trying to get to those 2nd and 3rd place finishers. But all things considered, I thought this was a horse that just really obviously needed that first out experience. Hopefully get better from the gate next time out. Linda Rice is not a trainer who's known for having her first-time starters cranked up. Also not a trainer who's known for doing a lot of gate work with her firsters, so this one will probably benefit from this experience of breaking from the gate in his debut. I'm also interested to see if Linda Rice decides to switch surfaces in this horse's next start, because while he's by Freud, who's a turf sire, but a pretty versatile turf sire, one can get runners that run on any surface. The Damside pedigree is really more geared towards dirt. He's a half-brother to Dirt Sprint Stakes winner Blind Willie McTell, along with a bunch of other dirt winners that Linda Rice has conditioned, like Blackjack Davy, Duquesne Whistle, horses that were allowance types. So I'll be interested to see if she decides to switch Thunderbird Cafe to the dirt, because Linda Rice is a trainer that's known to sometimes intentionally start horses on the wrong surface just to give them some experience. Moving on to a couple of races from the Saturday card at Aqueduct. I'm going to talk about actually 2 races that were run consecutively, races 2 and 3. Let's first take a look at race 2 from that April 17th card. This one's a New York bred maiden claiming race. $40,000 tag going 1 mile on the turf. Let's break these runners from the gate, and I want to focus on 2 of the horses in this field, the number 2 Jade's Dream and the number 7 Second Fortune. Now watch the number 2 Jade's Dream coming out of the gate. Manny Franco, the rider, is pretty aggressive trying to hustle this horse to the front, but only for a couple of strides as the field ranges up on the outside, and he quickly takes this horse in hand. And I think that turned out to be the wrong decision, because now he winds up in about 6th or 7th place early in a race that doesn't feature a whole lot of pace. So he ends up getting shuffled farther back than he really wants to be on a horse that prefers to be forwardly placed. Also note the number 7 Second Fortune, as they head into this clubhouse turn, gets spun a little bit wide. I think this was the first time that he was trying a 2-turn race, also just his second career start on the turf. So he was just a little confused heading into that first turn. But now as the field moves on to the backstretch, you can visibly see the pace slowing down because the entire field gets bunched up. That's a problem for both Second Fortune, who gets spun all the way out into the 5 or 6 path as the field fans out across the track onto the backstretch, but also the number 2 Jade's Dream, who's stuck in this awkward position on the inside. You can see Manny Franco here trying to advance up the rail, but that doesn't really work out, because as the field is going to break once again for the far turn, he gets shuffled back as a horse tires on the outside of him, and suddenly he's back where he started in 6th place, heading around the far turn, getting further shuffled back as the horses on the lead are breaking away, and those horses are the ones that are going to be successful in this race, particularly the eventual winner, that gray horse, the number 8 Bricko. And by the time they get to the top of the stretch here, once again, Jade's Dream is out of position. Fortune all the way back in 6th, while he's a horse that had done his best running in the past on the front end. Meanwhile, the number 7 Second Fortune, I just want to note him because he was wide on the turns, was compromised by the slow pace, and is just pretty green as they move through the stretch. You can see him trying to lug in. Luis Cardenas is having a tough time handling him. Jade's Dream, to his credit, he's actually finishing on well at the end of this race and nearly gets up for 3rd, but he just didn't have a chance to achieve a higher placing because of that poor decision heading into the first turn to rate him behind where he typically is comfortable being placed. The number 7 Second Fortune, I think he'll be a big price next time when he comes back at this level, but I think he's a horse that also deserves another chance on the turf because he's shown some ability in recent starts on the dirt, like he's moving in the right direction for a low-profile trainer, Bob Dunham, and I think moving to the turf might be the key to success for him in the future as long as he can run a more professional race next time out. Let's talk about one more race from that Saturday card on this show. It's the following race, race 3 from April 17th at Aqueduct. This one's a New York bred. Non-winners have won other than going 6 furlongs on the turf for the 3-year-olds. Let's break these runners from the gate, and I want to focus on the rail runner, the number 1, Dr. Blute. For John Kimmel, this is a horse that was making his turf debut. He had won his career debut in his prior start, but did so on the dirt, racing over a sloppy track, and had been a visually impressive winner of that race. So it was a little bit surprising to see John Kimmel elect to try the turf for his second start, rather than sticking to what they know he does well on the dirt. But you can see why they switched surfaces here, because he's a horse that has a stride that indicates he's likely to take to the turf, and he's also a son of Not This Time, who is a first crop sire who's been having a lot of success as a turf sire. I think among all of his turf starters, he's winning at upwards of 20%. That's really high for any kind of sire with turf starters. Moving around the far turn here, nothing goes wrong for Dr. Blute in the opening half of this race. He gets a pretty good trip, saving ground on the inside, has the right position to strike as they come off the far turn here, but you can see his rider Pablo Morales is starting to sense some trouble here. He's not really sure what to do. There's a wall of horses in front of him, and right here, he just makes the wrong decision. He angles the horse inside, and that's not where he wanted to go because the horses on the inside are tiring, and he ran to the back of them, lost momentum, had to alter course a couple of times to finally go back to the rail to find room in the stretch, and he's actually finishing best of all as they move across the wire here. The winner, Dancing Buck, had gotten the jump on him, but Dr. Blute is trying to get to that horse at the end, even after getting his momentum taken away from him at the top of the stretch. This is a horse that I admit I had liked in this race. I made him my Time Form US highlight horse because I thought he would take to the turf, and indeed he did. He should have won this race. He just didn't get the right ride at the top of the stretch there from Pablo Morales, and I think it's a learning experience for a lot of these riders that haven't ridden the turf in New York that much. Pablo Morales had a decent winter on the inner track, but this was one of his first turf rides since switching back over to the turf at this Aqueduct spring meet, and he just made a bit of a mistake choosing the wrong path to make a run with his horse through the lane. But Dr. Blute has now run really well in both of his career starts on the dirt and the turf, so I think his connections definitely have options. Don't think he's going to be some kind of big price next time when they run back in a similar spot, but he is the kind of horse they could take a shot in a stakes with because he's run so well in these 2 prior races. So I'll be interested to see where they decide to place him, but he's definitely a horse with plenty of upside. So those are all the horses to watch for this week as we end the Aqueduct meet. Looking forward to some future episodes at Belmont. Remember, if you want to follow any of these horses in the future, you can add them to your DRF Horse Watch. Just go to Watchmail on DRF.com, and you could add these horses to a list, get email notifications when they run back, have workouts, or results in the future. That's how I like to follow the horses that I highlight on this show. So thanks for tuning in this week, and make sure to catch future episodes of Horses to Watch on upcoming Wednesdays.